All right, let's just jump right in. We've all been there. That one person in your life, maybe it's a boss who just won't listen, or a teenager who's allergic to cleaning their room, or a friend who keeps making the same bad choices over and over. It's maddening, right? So frustrating. But what if I told you there's a way, a real way to help them change? And I'm not talking about nagging or arguing or just, losing your mind over it. I love this quote from Dr. David Lieberman's book, How to Change Anybody. He just puts it so perfectly. Don't let crazy people drive you crazy. See, this isn't about just putting up with difficult behavior. No, it's about getting smart. It's about understanding the psychology that's going on under the surface so you can actually do something that works. And that really brings us to the heart of the matter, what we could call the unchangeable person problem. We all know that feeling of complete powerlessness, right? When you're trying to get through to someone, a colleague who rejects any feedback, a family member who's just stuck, it honestly feels like you're talking to a brick wall. So that leads to the biggest question of all, the one we're really digging into in this explainer. Can people truly change? I mean, especially if they're insisting they don't want to. Well, I think the answer is going to surprise you. Okay, so here's where we make a huge shift in our thinking. The problem isn't the person's character, not really. It's their psychological wiring. See, Dr. Lieberman's whole idea is that deep down, pretty much everyone wants to be better. Nobody wakes up in the morning and thinks, I'm going to be a total jerk today, or I'm going to do something that's bad for me. They're just stuck. And what are they stuck on? He calls them emotional blocks. Think of these like invisible walls, these unconscious barriers that literally stop people from doing what, on some level, they know is the right thing to do. So here's the key. You're not trying to change the person. You're trying to take down the block. And this is exactly why yelling at them or confronting them head on almost never works. It just makes them defensive and makes that block even stronger. And wow, when you see it laid out like this, the difference is it's night and day. The old way, all it does is build walls. You criticize, you demand, they just dig in their heels. But this new way, the smart way, it's all about reshaping their world, their psychological environment, so that changing becomes the easy, natural choice for them. I mean, that's a total game changer, isn't it? So, the big question is, how do we actually do this? Let's get into the good stuff, the practical toolkit. We're going to break down 3 really powerful psychological keys from the book that you can use to unlock change in almost anyone. All right, tool number 1 is called the conflict creator. This one is absolutely perfect for somebody whose actions just don't match the values they say they have. It's all about getting inside their head and changing the math for them. So here's how it works. In any given situation, someone might do something bad because, well, they've convinced themselves it's okay. The technique is to create an internal conflict by putting that behavior up against a value they hold that's even higher, like being a good parent or an honest person. Suddenly, the equation in their head changes, and they're facing this internal battle that they can only win by changing their behavior. It's all about protecting their own self-image. Okay, next up we have the ego soother. This one is your secret weapon for dealing with that person who is just so stubborn they will never, ever admit they were wrong. The whole trick here is to make it easy on their ego. So instead of pointing a finger and saying, you're wrong, which only makes them double down, you give them a way to save face. You bring in new information and you frame it like this. Hey, you know what? Based on everything you knew back then, your decision made perfect sense. But now we have this new piece of info. See? It gives their ego an escape hatch. It allows them to change their mind without ever feeling dumb. They're not wrong, they're just smart enough to adapt. And that brings us to our third and final tool, the image shaper. Now this one is really cool. It taps into that subtle but incredibly powerful human need to live up to the good things other people think about us. Honestly, this one can feel a little bit like magic. Imagine someone has a bad habit you want to change. The technique is to actually compliment them on the opposite of that behavior. You're basically creating a new positive image for them. And the psychological result is that they'll feel this unconscious pull, this drive to become the person that you've just described. It reshapes how they see themselves, and it makes them want to be that better version of themselves. So let's pull all of this together into your new relationship toolkit. Remember, this isn't about being manipulative. It's about using a much deeper understanding of how people work to build healthier relationships and to help people, and ourselves really, get past those blocks that are holding them back. And there you have it, your 3 psychological keys. You've got the conflict creator, the ego soother, and the image shaper. When you start to see which tool fits which situation, you can finally stop feeling so frustrated and start feeling genuinely empowered to actually create positive change. And that really brings us to the final thought here. This stuff isn't just some interesting theory to think about. It's a set of tools you can actually use. So as we wrap up, I'll just leave you with this one question to ponder. Who in your life will you help become better?